Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, good grief, wherever you are. Um, my name is Willie Lawson, and my friend here is Paul Swanson. We are Fight Back Media, fightbackmedia.com, 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 and Fightback Media TV, and the Swanson Report.locals.com, the Swanson Report.locals.com, the Swanson Report.locals.com. You love the way that I can do that, right? Like, because I
It
practice.
just rolls right
I
off the tongue.
because I practice like nobody's business. That's why somebody else, when I first did my, a couple of radio shows way back when on WGOL, the guy said, "You're really good at this." I said, "I'm not good. I'm just practiced. I just work. I just keep doing it." Anyway, a few days ago, and this is what we want to talk about. A few days ago, the Biden White House, Paul, had a little party. It was interestingly time party, celebrating what they believe and what the press secretary believes is an historic piece of legislation, the Inflation Reduction Act, which is an addendum basically to the Build Back Better.
Whatever happened to that?
I don't know. I don't know. It's one of those things where I can't even say it without laughing. I really can't say it without making fun of it. Build Back Better.
Somebody in the administration loves alliteration.
They do, because they find it's easy for people to remember. So that's why they do it. Build Back Better. Yeah, not build back at all. Big freaking disaster. How about that one? Anyway, an addendum piece of legislation that is supposed to reduce inflation. Now, I find it interesting, Paul. What do you find? That it's supposed to reduce the inflation that they once told us, first of all, didn't exist. And second of all, if it did, it was transitory.
Well, anything, yes, exactly. And yeah, Janet Yellen saying it was transitory. The White House press secretary, I still don't think has actually come out and said, well, yes, there is inflation. They don't believe that it's around. But, Build Back Better, Inflation Reduction Act, if you look at those titles, just flip them because they don't have any bearing on
reality.
On what the titles actually mean.
They're sort of the opposite of what the title
means. Exactly. If it says Build Back Better, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Inflation Reduction Act, no, it's not going to happen. I do know, and I don't know about you, we paid $3.64 a gallon for gas this afternoon up in Superior, which is about $1 less than it was. When was the last time we were up there? 2 months ago, maybe. So yeah, the gas has come down.
Our gas prices have come down. The only problem is that people are watching the gas prices go down, but nothing else is following it. There was supposed to be this precipitous drop as gas prices or fuel prices dropped. Everything else was sort of following it, and we have found that is not the case. Paul, you hit me to some knowledge from some folks, and I want to go and want to get to it. So people don't think that we're just making this up off the top of our head. Not that we couldn't. Don't get it twisted. Not that we couldn't, but we want to be able to have our viewers and listeners be able to check our sources. Unlike CNN and MSNBC, you can actually go back and read this up for yourself.
We have got a wide variety of sources.
Yes.
From which to look. And, I would encourage anybody who's listening, watching, or otherwise tuned into this to go ahead, take a look at these for yourselves. And you'll probably find other things. But these were the things that we found rather quickly. And they are noted sources. So.
All righty. Hang on just a second here.
There we go.
Hey, you like that, huh? Yeah, hang on a second here. Let me click the button and share the sound. All right, there you go. We're sharing the sound. If you look at this is from from taxfoundation.org. Y'all, this is an article written about the inflection, sorry.
That too.
Yeah, that too. The Inflation Reduction Act by the folks at taxfoundation.com. And here are the authors and people who got in on this: Alex Durante, William McBride, Garrett Watson, Cody Kalin, and Hakeem Lee. I can read writing. I can't read reading, but I can read writing, as they say. Here's the preliminary review, Paul. Here are the numbers. Numbers are it's set to get, or the revenue is $324 billion. The long run in GDP is negative. The long run in wages is negative. The loss in jobs is negative. It reads the Inflation Reduction Act, successor to the House passed Build Back Better Act of 2021, has been touted by President Biden to, among other things, help reduce the country's crippling inflation. Using the Tax Foundation's general equilibrium model, we estimate that the Inflation Reduction Act will would reduce long run in economic output by about 2.2%. So the long-term output is going to be reduced by 0.2%. So I think that in itself would cause a certain amount of inflation, would it not?
Of course. Well, it's not a this has nothing to do with inflation. It's, GDP is going to be down. What was GDP 4 or 5 years ago? It was moving on an upward slope.
It was almost 3% or something. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, so it's not, these are your initial, preliminary numbers, and 3 out of the 4 of them are negative, going, nah, that's not a real good start, guys.
What about eliminate 29,000 full-time equivalent jobs in the U.S.? It would also reduce an average of average after-tax income for taxpayers across every income quintile over the long run. By reducing the long-term economic growth, this bill may actually worsen inflation by constraining the productive capacity of the economy. That doesn't sound like a reduction in inflation. That sounds like a reduction in prosperity.
Yeah, and these are not. I'd have to look more specifically, but these are pretty much nonpartisan folks from the Tax Foundation. They're basically looking at the numbers.
Yes,
and
that's all they're doing is looking at the numbers.
Yeah, they're it's not a political job. They're looking at the numbers and going, okay, here's what they have put out in, HR, what was it, 53 something, and they're just looking at the numbers. So yeah, 3 out of 4 are in the negative. No, that's not a real good start, guys.
Not at all. Inflation is driven by expectations regarding the likelihood that the federal government will be able to repay its debt over the long term, which is a function of the expected performance of the economy and tax collection and spending. So all these things go together, folks. When government spends too much money, or much more money than it has, and then the performance of the economy doesn't happen, so the tax incomes don't fill the coffers, then it causes the government to do what? Print more money.
Print more money.
Come on, print more money. Only, and I think this is something that needs to be said. Only government can create inflation.
Right.
Exactly. Right. Hit the nail on the head there.
Only government can create inflation. There aren't any other things in the economic cycle. You can't blame inflation on Elon Musk or Bill Gates or I don't know, the MyPillow guy.
That's a whole nother show. That's a whole nother week of shows.
I know. You can't blame inflation on the gasoline industry. You can't. Only government, because only government can print more money, can actually cause inflation. That's it. That's it. These folks at Tax Foundation, and you can find this link as you can see on your screen, is taxfoundation.org/Inflation Reduction Act, and you can read this for yourself.
We will have these links in the description below somewhere.
In the description box, here on YouTube, if you'll see it, and Rumble, and Paul will put this up on BitChute because he's a BitChute fan. I frankly am not so much. I have not had much success dealing with BitChute. You have, I have not. So that's just how it is. So you are now the BitChute.
It would be at all the usual suspect places. So
yes. So you can be our BitChute expert. Speaking of the authors, we can take a quick gander. Let's see. Alex Durante worked 3 years at the Federal Reserve Board. Hardly a movement conservative working for the Federal Reserve, I guess. No. Let's see. This guy, Cody Kalin, worked at the Congressional Budget Office, consulted for by the World Bank. Probably not a movement conservative working for the freaking World Bank.
Or the American Enterprise Institute.
Yeah, exactly. Dr. McBride here is Vice President of the Federal Tax and Policy, Stephen Eston Fellow in Economics Foundation, and I'm looking through PricewaterhouseCoopers, where he worked on. Again, he was a PhD in economics from George Mason. Garrett Watson, Senior Policy Analysis Modeling Manager, Tax Foundation. His work's been featured as such, conservative places like the Washington Post and the Atlantic.
Certainly not a bunch of political hacks by
not at all. You're right. These folks are just going through the numbers. But they are just looking.
These are bean counters.
Yes, you can tell they got some bean counting, clothing on there. They are. So God bless them. Anyway, so that's one of the sources that that you can go to. Again, that's taxfoundation.org. That'll be down in the description box, so you guys could check that out for sure. I don't know about where you live, Paul, but right now we are seeing what you're seeing in the sense that gas prices are falling. As a matter of fact, gas per gallon at Sam's Club right now, where I get gas, is $3.16.
Wow,
which is way down from where it was, a year ago for sure. And I'm grateful. But you know what? The food prices inside the Sam's Club have not gone down. They are still creeping skyward. And the president was on 60 Minutes, I guess, last night or night before. I don't remember.
Yep.
Basically arguing the point that because inflation didn't move much from last month or month before last to last month, that they had a handle on it. It was exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That it was 8.3 before, so it hasn't moved. Now I did my own research because I'm a fantastic researcher.
Of course you are.
Not so much really. And I was curious, what was inflation the quarter before the Biden administration invaded the White House? 1.4%. 1.4%. 1.4%. Not 8.4, but 1.4%. Basically none.
Yeah, that's a rounding error, and as far as government numbers go.
Yeah. 2 months before, 1.2%, 1.2%, and the month before they took over in December, it was 1.4%. Those are the kind of numbers that spur on an economy. That's how it is. So, and I know that the president tried to make the case on 60 Minutes of all the places in the world that they had a handle on it because it hadn't increased over the past month. Not even the liberal media Not even people like
No,
like
no,
successful or
nobody,
high.
nobody bought it. Nobody bought it at all. Any rational thinking person with, a working, a couple of working neurons and a working synapse would
That's
know
it.
that none of that's true.
You need two cells and and the synapse thing that goes in between them. That's all you need. You don't need a lot. You need one on one side, one on the other side,
That's it.
and a very small amount of electricity. It doesn't take much electricity to get that going. All right, let's go ahead and see if we can look at another article, and we can. Let's make sure I get all of this happening. Oh, it is still sharing the sound. Fantastic. This one is from the New York Post, by Lydia Moynihan. The Inflation Reduction Act will cost middle class $20 billion. And you know what? In new taxes.
Billion with a B.
Billion. That's billion and billions of dollars. Our friend Carl Sagan, billions and billions of dollars. The Inflation Reduction Act sent to President Biden's desk will end up forcing working class Americans to pay billions of dollars in new taxes, according to the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. Now, I was under the impression, correct me if I had misimpressioned, that that all of these things, all of these tax increases and getting, making sure that all these things were put in place to make sure that the big guys, the big wage earners, $400,000 plus, were paying their fair share. This is not what this is about. This analysis by the Congressional Budget Office estimates that those earning less than $400,000, the group on which Biden promised not to raise taxes, will pay an estimated $20 billion more in taxes over the next decade as a result of the Democrat push $740 billion package, which also sets aside $80 billion to hire 87,000 IRS agents, which they are,
What do we need all those guys?
Yeah.
which they are going to need to extract that $20 billion. They're going to need that many agents to extract that much out of people who don't have it.
And 80 billion into 87,000 is what sort of salary and benefits and all? We won't even go there.
Now, they're
talk about a boondoggle type job. That's
the bill has yet to be scored in its entirety by the CBO, which typically gives each piece of legislation a price tag before it's voted on. But the emergency scored the impact of the IRS expansion on the middle class taxpayers on August 12th as provision from is his name Crapo or Crapo? It's got to be Crapo. Please say it's Crapo. Mike Crapo, Republican from Idaho, sought to exempt those making under $400,000 from increased IRS scrutiny. Well, you know what? Frankly, in order to get the amount of money that they need, the very rich over $400,000, they don't have it. They are not going to be able to scrape that kind of money out of them. So just like everything else, the left has promised to not touch the quote middle class. It's all been a lie since the beginning, because what they're promising, what they're pushing, won't work with the population that they say it's going to work in. It's going to have to drop down, just like it did in the Obama administration. Remember when he got asked, well, how many, what kind of people do you think are wealthy, Mr. President? People making over $250,000. And what did we find out later? That was the guy who owned a dry cleaner.
right.
That was the guy who employed two kids from the neighborhood at his floral shop, because he was putting his business taxes on his personal taxes. That was the guy next door. That wasn't some big cat, no fat cat smoking the big Cuban cigar. No, that was your neighbor. That was your neighbor who owned a floral shop or a dry cleaner or did air conditioning.
Any small business person that is working.
Yes.
And is the ones who are are feeling the direct impact of this on a day-to-day basis. And, they say, it's the anything over 400,000. Well, they never have, and I haven't seen it, maybe you have, but I kind of doubt it, that they never have said what a fair share is.
Well, I always, I look at, and I think it's Thomas Sowell. No, it was Walter Williams. No one's ever said what a fair share of what somebody else makes is.
Yeah.
What's the fair share of something that you didn't earn? What's that somebody else makes? What's your fair share of that?
Well,
the answer is all of it. That's what their answer is all of it.
Yeah. Well, and I think you and I have talked about this previously, that that Bernie and Joe and the whole crew, they all want everybody to pay their fair share. One, they haven't said what a fair share is, and they can't come up with that idea or that. The other thing is that's just their answer in contrast to addressing, okay, these, the people who are earning over 400,000 a year. Hey, why don't you change the current, 10,000 page federal tax code?
Oh, no, are you kidding? What are you crazy? Do you know how much money we make doing that?
That's
what,
right.
What are you crazy? All those tax attorneys that will have to, I don't know, find those jobs. All those tax accountants that would have to do something else, go to work for their brother-in-law, at the dry clean. Are you kidding me? And all those lobbyists on K Street, then what would they do?
I know.
I would lose all those swanky vacations. Oh no, we can't do that. No,
Nope, not at all.
Especially now that we got Martha's Vineyard all cleaned up. Ooh, that took a week.
Well, yeah. Martha's Vineyard's the only place in the world who has 100% return of.
Got them all out of there, didn't they? Got them on a bus and got Maria and Jose the hell out of there. Amazing. You're not supposed to be here. Love you. Now get out. So all right, we have one more article. Let me click on the buttons. I thought I was so prepared. I think I was super prepared.
Yes, you were. As we were talking earlier, yes, you were.
I've done pretty well. As a matter of fact, watch this, friends. Watch this.
Watch this, Rocky. Nothing up my sleeve. I think this is an ad.
Yeah, it is. You're welcome.
The Inflation Reduction Act, a legislative win for President Biden and Democrats. A far-ranging climate, healthcare, and tax deal with implications for the car in your driveway, the breaker box in your attic or basement, the pills in your medicine cabinet, and how you heat your home. Here's what's in it. Medicare will finally be able to negotiate the prices of some prescription drugs, beginning with 10 widely used drugs in 2026. And there'll be a cap of $2,000 for out-of-pocket prescriptions for Medicare recipients. And Medicare patients who use insulin would have an out-of-pocket cost capped at $35 a month for that drug. Now, Democrats wanted to extend the insulin cap to people on private insurance, but not enough Republicans were on board. Now, for people insured under Obamacare, their subsidies are extended another 3 years. Their out-of-pocket premiums cannot exceed 8.5% of their income. That's down from 10%. This is the nation's largest federal clean energy investment, hundreds of billions of dollars to steer the nation to a more sustainable economy, tax incentives to lower the cost of electricity with more renewable sources, and persuade more Americans to switch to electricity for their cars and homes. Incentives for households and businesses to choose energy-efficient windows and heating and cooling systems, tax credits for companies that use solar panels and wind turbines, and rebates for Americans to buy electric vehicles, $7,500 for a new EV, $4,000 for used. It's paid for in part by a 15% minimum tax for companies making $1 billion or more a year. And the IRS will receive a cash infusion to track down tax cheats and improve the tax filing season. So what's missing? The bill doesn't extend the child tax credit passed last year in the American Rescue Plan. And it doesn't close the so-called carried interest loophole, which allows
All right.
Well, you just don't
Enough
even
of
know
that.
where to begin with that.
No, that's why I wanted to play it, because this idea that this bill, this thing is directed towards inflation.
Did
No,
it pass the Senate?
just the House. It would, no, it passed both.
Yeah, I did pass both. It's going
Yeah,
to
pass
pass.
Oh, that's horrible.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. This idea that this is just about inflation and getting prices under control. No, this is the other part of the leftist wish list.
Exactly. Well, she said, yeah,
Everything.
yeah. Well, she said it right up at the front. It's Green New Deal. It's all that sort of stuff. And she went into the thing in there, and I've written about it. I think we've posted it on our usual suspect sites.
Mhm.
About okay, well, yeah, you're going to give a $7,500 rebate Tesla. Well,
There's
a brand, yeah,
$67,000.
brand new Tesla. Let's just use round dollar figures. They're $100,000. Do you have the current income to qualify for one of those, even
don't.
with a $7,500 rebate?
No, I don't.
I don't either. The other thing is, now you probably have, you're probably in better, given where you're located in the wonderful, beautiful downtown Tampa area.
Beautiful, and it is beautiful.
I know, but here, and we have this, they are having to put a new transmission line, electric transmission line in here to help with the electricity in this area. We do not have phased electric here.
What?
So the business right across the street from us, we have brand new heater, air conditioning heads in the property. They can either be in AC or heat. They can't do both because there's not phased electric here.
Wow.
So they want us to buy all new electric vehicles to help our inflation. And
That's not gonna help inflation.
and yeah, and it's not going to help. It's not going to
No.
help. And one, we're already seeing the problem, as she was saying, with hey, we need to buy electric. Already seeing the problem with California. All right, our electric here, maybe it's different in your area, probably is. Our electric grid here could not handle if I put a Tesla power wall in our garage to power a Tesla. Couldn't happen.
Any other electric.
Or any sort of electric vehicle. If we tried to put the Tesla shingles on our roof, well, we're not right in the sunshine, and only one half of the roof is. We wouldn't be able to handle that. The electric grid can't handle that. So what we're starting to see. Thank you, CNN, for telling the truth, saying the quiet part out loud.
They didn't mean to. It was completely by accident.
Yeah, they didn't mean to say that out loud, but hey, guess what, guys? You said it. This is more than just, it has nothing to do with inflation. It's like you said, Willie, it's part of their wish list that they are just shoving through and hoping it'll stick.
That's exactly right.
Question is, where do they think the electricity
Comes from.
for the electric cars comes from? That's what I want to know.
Penny, it's interesting that you say that, because a few years ago I had a conversation with Mayor Baker of St. Petersburg. We were talking about electric vehicles, and this was probably 5-6 years ago, talking about electric vehicles and autonomous cars and that autonomous vehicle, that kind of stuff. And I thought to myself, isn't an EV just a car with a really long extension cord that plugs into some coal-fired plant somewhere?
basically,
Isn't that-
or whatever plant that's generating electricity.
And this is
But they
something.
haven't solved the battery,
Yeah,
the battery issue for all these wonderful wind turbines that blow down in the worst winds and can't be put in too many places because of weather issues. And I mean, it's just.
And
it's silly.
And so we
think
have-
electric is like magic.
Yep.
It magically comes and it's just sort of there, and therefore you're not burning anything. But they're not thinking very straight about that.
You know, it's interesting. I think the key is that we have to stop calling things what they call them. These are not
Yeah.
electric vehicles. These are battery power. These are battery powered vehicles.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
all of the minerals, the rare
Yeah, the
minerals that
rare
they're
earth
having to
minerals.
Oh, I love.
deal with that. And then what happens when the battery dies? Eventually, it will. All batteries.
You don't have
What
the
do you
issue
do
there.
at the
Yeah.
end of that?
You don't have the issue there, other than maybe in hurricanes. Guess what? It's starting to approach winter up here, northern Wisconsin.
It gets dark at
It-
1 o'clock in the afternoon. What the
Yeah,
heck?
well, close.
It's ridiculous.
Hey, we get caught in a snowstorm in an EV.
Yeah, you're a dead man.
Yeah, what are you
You're a
gonna
dead
do?
man. You're a dead man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here, I think we, and I mean this. I think we really have to start calling, naming things differently. These are not electric vehicles. These are battery operated vehicles, and the power to charge these batteries is still not solar, and solar is dirty because of what it takes to build the panels. And these batteries are filthy. My favorite thing to tell people about this: are you okay with the African children who mine this lithium by hand that we know is carcinogenic? Are you okay with that? Because
Right.
that's what you're encouraging to do. Oh, and of course, the Chinese children who are having to deal with this material, because most of these batteries are built in China. So if you're okay with children, handling these very dangerous materials, so you can drive a Tesla, and I ain't doggone Tesla, because if you've not driven a Tesla yet, do. It's cool as hell. It's quiet. It's fast. But it's not ready for prime time. It just isn't. It just isn't. All right, we got to get out of here. We got about a minute before this shuts us down. Paul, tell everybody where they can find you and your stuff.
Best place is theswansonreport.locals.com, theswansonreport.locals.com, theswansonreport.locals.com.
You have learned well. Thank you ever so much for hopping onto the video. Thank you, Ms. Penny. We appreciate you. We love you. And you can find all this out at fightbackmedia.com, 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 and fightbackmediatv.com. So until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. Bye-bye now.